Hey, imagine trying to run for more than 2 whole days.
Wow.
Non-stop, almost no sleep, pushing your body super hard across deserts, up big mountains, and through the dark.
Yeah.
That's what the Cocodona 250 is all about. It's a race that's so incredibly tough, just finishing it is a huge win.
Absolutely.
Who even tries something like that?
Yeah.
And what can we, learn from these amazing people?
What really grabs you is just how huge this challenge is. A normal marathon is about 26 miles.
Right. The standard.
Well, this ultramarathon, it's 256.5 miles. That's not just a little bit longer, it's a whole different world of endurance.
Today on the deep dive, we're going deep into the Cocodona 250. We've looked at all sorts of info to bring you the most interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
We'll find out what makes this race so incredibly hard, talk about the mind-blowing things the runners did in 2025, and even get a peek at how they get ready for something so extreme. Think of this as your easy way to understand one of the toughest races out there, with some facts that might just, surprise you.
If we think about the bigger picture, this isn't just about running a really long way. It's about seeing what the human body and mind can really do.
Totally.
Our goal today is to break down what makes the Cocodona 250 so special. We're going to look at the super tough path they run, the record-breaking finishes we saw not too long ago, and just how much work it takes to even think about trying this race.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. What exactly is the Cocodona 250? We know it's super, super long, but what else makes it its own thing?
Well, it happens every year in Arizona, and it's put on by a group called Aravaipa Running. A guy named Jamil Khoury started it back in 2021.
Oh, okay. So pretty recent.
Yeah, relatively new. It always takes place in early May. The runners start in a town called Black Canyon City and run all the way up to finish in Flagstaff.
And it's not like they're just running on flat ground, right? I heard there's a ton of up and down.
Got it. The total amount they have to climb is around 40,000 feet, and then they come down about 35,000 feet.
Whoa.
To get a picture of that, imagine climbing a giant mountain almost as tall as Mount Everest.
Seriously?
And then coming almost all the way back down. The whole idea is to create this super tough and, unforgettable test of endurance right here in North America.
This race hasn't been around forever, has it? You said 2021. How has it changed since it first started?
That's right. The first one was in 2021, and in 2022, they actually had to change the route a bit because of a fire.
Oh, okay.
But if we look at who has won over the years and how fast they ran, we can see how things are going.
You got some info on the past winners, right?
Okay.
What's interesting about that progression?
What's really interesting is how the winning times have gotten faster, especially for the men. Back in 2021, the winner took over 72 hours.
Wow, 3 days.
Yeah. By 2022, that dropped to under 60 hours, and just recently in 2025, it went even lower. The women's record has also seen big improvements.
So it's getting more competitive.
Exactly. This tells us that the race is getting more competitive, and the runners are getting better at figuring out how to handle this incredibly difficult course.
So it's not just about being tough, it's also about getting faster.
Yeah.
And knowing the best way to run it.
Right. Strategy plays a huge part.
Now, you mentioned the course goes all across Arizona. What kind of places do these runners actually go through? It sounds scenic, at least.
It's like a tour of all the different kinds of landscapes Arizona has. It kicks off in the Sonoran Desert, so right away they're running past those big, famous saguaro cacti.
Iconic.
Then they climb up into the Bradshaw Mountains where it's cooler and there are old mining roads and lots of pine trees. They even go through the granite dells, which are these really cool and unusual rock shapes.
That sounds amazing to see, but probably not so easy to run on.
Definitely a challenge for tired legs. After that, they head down into Sedona, which is famous for its red rocks.
Oh yeah, it's Sedona.
And that's where they face the Hangover Trail, which is known for being super, super tough.
Hangover Trail. Sounds ominous.
It lives up to the name for some, I bet. Then it's through the Verde Valley and into the huge Coconino National Forest, which is full of tall pine trees. The very last big challenge is climbing up and then down Mount Eldon, which is right near the finish line in Flagstaff and is over 9,000 feet high.
Wow, that's a lot of different environments.
Yeah.
What kind of ground are they actually running on most of the time? Is it all trail?
It's a real mix of surfaces, actually. About half of the course is on trails. Some are narrow and twisty, single track, and others are wider, maybe old Jeep roads.
Okay.
Then there's also a smaller part that's on paved roads. So runners have to be ready for just about anything under their feet.
Versatility is key then.
Totally. And there are definitely some parts that are known to be extra hard. That first big climb out of Black Canyon City really gets to a lot of runners. The Bradshaw Mountains are tough because they go up and down a lot. Mount Eldon at the very end is just brutal when you're already so tired.
Oh, I can imagine.
And that hangover trail in Sedona, while beautiful, has some really scary exposed sections, like right on the edge.
Yikes. So you're not just running a long distance. You're also fighting against all sorts of crazy ground and maybe some heights. Now, the 2025 race, that's when some big records were broken, right?
Right.
Tell us all about that exciting stuff.
Exactly. The 2025 race happened from May 5th to 10th, and it was one for the history books. Both the fastest time for men and the fastest time for women were beaten, which is pretty incredible.
Both in the same year.
Both in the same year. Dan Green won the men's race in an amazing 58 hours, 47 minutes, and 18 seconds.
Under 60 hours.
Yeah. That's more than 2 whole days of running without much rest, and he finished over an hour faster than the old record.
That's just unbelievable. What happened in the women's race? Did she smash the record too?
She did. Rachel Entrekin won the women's race and set a new record of 63 hours, 58 minutes, and 15 seconds.
Incredible time.
And what's even more impressive is that this is the second time she's won this race, making her the only person to ever win the Cocodona 250 twice.
Wow. Consistency.
Yeah, and she won by quite a bit of time. Really dominant performance.
Are there any other runners who did really well that we should, mention? Top finishers.
Yes, definitely. For the men, Ryan Sandes from South Africa came in second place, and Eder Ramirez from Mexico finished in third.
International field.
Very much so. For the women, Lindsay Dwyer finished second, and Sarah Ostaszewski came in third. It was a really strong group of top athletes this year.
And I heard the weather was a bit unusual in 2025. Not the typical Arizona heat.
It definitely was. The weather was surprisingly cool and rainy, and they even had some hail and mud.
Hail? Seriously?
Yeah, which is very different from the usual hot and dry weather they normally have in Arizona in May. Can you imagine running that far in those kinds of wet and cold conditions? It just adds another layer of difficulty.
Wow, that sounds really tough. Mud on top of everything else. Did any famous runners have a hard time out there? I heard maybe a big name DNF'd.
Yes, actually. A very well-known ultra runner, Courtney Dauwalter, had to stop racing after 108 miles, which just shows you how incredibly challenging this race is. Even for the absolute best runners in the world, you just never know what might happen out there on a course like this.
It really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If she couldn't finish.
Exactly. And I think I remember hearing about someone really young and someone quite a bit older finishing in a past year. Is that right?
That's right. Back in 2024, a 17-year-old and a 73-year-old both managed to finish the entire race.
That's amazing.
And in 2025, a very impressive 192 people crossed that finish line, which, considering everything, is a huge number.
It really is. Just finishing is monumental.
Okay, so we know it's super hard, super long, and the course is wild. But what's it actually like for the runners while they're out there? What do they have to deal with, personally?
Oh man, the runners go through a real mix of amazing moments and really, really tough times. Physically, their bodies are just getting hammered from running and climbing for so many days.
Yeah.
They often don't get enough sleep, which can even cause them to have hallucinations, seeing things that aren't really there.
Seeing things. That sounds pretty scary when you're also exhausted and maybe alone on a trail.
It's a common thing in these kinds of super long races, unfortunately, part of the challenge. And they have to constantly try to eat enough food, force it down sometimes to keep their energy levels up for days on end.
Right. Fueling must be critical.
Absolutely vital. But even with all the pain and tiredness, many runners talk about feeling incredibly happy at times, like moments of pure euphoria, really connecting with the other runners who are going through the same crazy thing.
That shared experience.
Exactly. And feeling this huge sense of accomplishment when they finally finish, or even just make it to the next aid station.
It sounds like they can't really do it all on their own, can they? They need help.
Absolutely not. Having a support crew, people who meet them at certain points to give them food, dry socks, encouragement, and pacers who run with them for parts of the race to keep them company and help them stay on track.
Keep them awake, maybe?
Yeah, probably that too. That support system is often key to finishing. We even heard about one runner who still got heat exhaustion, even though they tried to get used to the heat beforehand.
Oh, no.
The desert can be very unpredictable, and finding your way on the trails can be tricky, especially at night, so they often rely heavily on GPS devices to make sure they're going the right way.
Sounds like the mental part of it is just as important, maybe even more important than how strong your body is.
It's absolutely crucial. Pushing through the pain, the boredom sometimes, the urge to just stop for days requires incredible mental toughness. Many runners say that the first 38 miles feel especially hard just settling in.
Getting over that initial hump?
Yeah, but it's also amazing how these runners often become really good friends out there because they've all shared this unbelievably challenging kind of raw experience together.
That makes sense. A real bond. This all sounds so intense. How on earth do you even start training for something like the Cocodona 250? Where do you begin?
Right. It takes a really long and well thought out training plan. It's not something you just decide to do next month.
No kidding.
Building up the number of miles you run each week, your volume slowly and steadily over a long time is the most important thing. And because the race has so many different kinds of ground,
Which we talked about, yeah.
it's really important to train on similar surfaces. Rocky trails, steep hills, all sorts of ups and downs so your body gets used to it. You gotta simulate the course as best you can.
That makes sense. You can't just train on flat roads and expect to do well scrambling up Mount Eldon.
Exactly. And if you don't live in Arizona, it's a really good idea to try and get used to the heat somehow. Heat training.
Sauna time.
Maybe.
Right.
Or just running at the hottest part of the day where you live. Practicing long hikes and even running for several days in a row, like back-to-back long runs, helps your body learn to keep going when you're tired.
Building that deep endurance.
Precisely. There are even special training plans and coaches who know how to get people ready for these kinds of super long races. It's become quite specialized.
So it's like a full-time job, just getting ready for it. The commitment must be huge.
It definitely requires a huge commitment of time and energy, both for your body and your mind. You have to get your head right, too. Choosing the right gear, like dialing in your shoes and backpacks, and knowing how to use things like GPS watches and headlamps is really important. Practice with your gear.
Don't want your headlamp dying mid-race.
Oh, definitely not. And having a good plan for what you're going to eat and drink during the race, your nutrition and hydration strategy is absolutely vital for staying healthy and performing as well as you can.
This race sounds like a pretty big deal in the running world now. Do a lot of people know about it? Is it getting mainstream attention?
It's definitely gained a lot of attention, especially in the ultra running community. It's one of the premier 200 plus milers. And you can even follow the runners live online with GPS tracking as they're actually out on the course.
So people are actually watching these little dots move across a map for days.
Yeah, dot watching. It's huge. Lots of websites and magazines that cover running, write about the race and the people who take part in it. There's a lot of buzz around it each year.
So people are actually watching this happen as it's going on. That's cool.
Yes, the live tracking is very popular. There's even a movie called The Chase about the race, which shows you how much people are interested in these stories.
A movie. Okay, yeah, it's big then.
And of course, runners and fans are always talking about it on social media and online forums. Aravaipa Running, the group that puts on the race, is very well known and respected in the sport. They put on quality events.
Good reputation.
Definitely. Because it's such a big event, companies that sell running gear often sponsor runners and the race itself, which helps the sport grow and supports the athletes.
So it's not just a few crazy people running in the desert, like you might initially think. It's something that a lot of people are paying attention to and investing in.
Exactly. It's a major event on the ultra running calendar.
So what's the main thing to take away from all this? Why does the Cocodona 250 even matter beyond the running world?
Well, I think the Cocodona 250 really shows us just how much humans are capable of when they really push themselves. It highlights human potential, you know? It shows what people can do when they go beyond what seems possible.
Pushing limits.
Absolutely. The record-breaking runs we saw in 2025 show that the sport of ultra running is getting more and more competitive, and people are finding new ways to achieve incredible things. It's constantly evolving.
It's inspiring in a way that also makes my legs feel tired just thinking about it.
Absolutely. Hearing about what these runners go through teaches us important things about being mentally strong, about resilience, about not giving up even when things are incredibly difficult.
Like lessons, really.
Yeah, definitely. And about what you can achieve if you really set your mind to it. And the fact that this race is getting more popular shows how much people are fascinated by these kinds of extreme challenges and the amazing stories that come out of them.
So you've just taken a deep dive into the incredible world of the Cocodona 250. We've seen how this race tests the absolute limits of human endurance across the beautiful, but frankly brutal landscapes of Arizona.
Brutal is a good word for it.
From the record-shattering performances of Dan Green and Rachel Entrekin to the huge amount of physical and mental preparation that all the runners need, the Cocodona 250 is truly an event that grabs your attention.
It really does. This makes you think, what part of this deep dive surprised you the most? Did you know that the runners would have to deal with so many different kinds of ground and that crazy weather?
Right, or the distances involved.
Or were you as amazed as we were by just how far and how long they run? Almost 3 days for some.
Now we really want to know what you think. Head down to the comments section and tell us what you found most interesting or maybe most mind-boggling about the Cocodona 250.
Yeah, what questions do you still have? What other super tough challenges are you curious about? We'd love to hear it.
Your thoughts help us all learn more. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.